So, I can now show you some slides. So, driving the electric revolution. We are all about developing UK's clean and resilient PEMD supply chain. I've already sort of done these slides, so I'll quickly show them to you. But what are we doing within DER? So, first thing that's important to say is this was led by you and other people within the PEMD community. So we built this over the last few years and always being led by the community, saying what is it that we can best spend our fairly scant government resources on within the PEMD community to ensure that the UK is a competitive place globally for PEMD manufacturing. There's a bit about the CSR as well. We are, obviously, as everyone has mentioned today, there's a CSR ongoing at the moment. We are, I think, quite well positioned to secure more funding in this space. The more things that you can do within this room to help is shout about us as much as possible. If you like what Driving the Electric Revolution is doing, then tell your elected representative about it, shout at whoever you can who may be influential, and that is the best thing that you can do to support us and hopefully give us more funding to continue to do what we're doing, which I'm about to talk you through now. So, I don't think I need to talk this through too much. I think everyone in this room probably understands more than I probably do about power electronics, machines and drives. But that is what we're about, and it's materials, it's component manufacture, it's a systems integration, and then the reuse at the end of life. We are cross-sectoral, so you can see various images at the bottom, and we cover all of those sectors, as PEMD is fundamentally sector agnostic. It's the fundamental in many cases. I'm rushing slightly because I think I've got 10 minutes. So the 10-point plan is the government's latest statement, I guess, around climate change and what they want UK industry to do to tackle climate change. I'm scared of climate change personally. It's the thing that keeps me up at night, frankly. And what we are doing within PEMD and within the PEMD community is developing and bringing the solutions that will remove fossil fuel burning instruments from our society, bring the solutions for that to market faster and in greater scale than otherwise would have happened. And it's the people in this room that are doing that. Within the 10-point plan, Driving Electric Revolution, the things that we are talking about, things I'm talking about today, are very central to that, which is fantastic. The government wants the UK to be somewhere that manufactures the solutions for climate change, and we don't want to be a net importer of the types of solutions that we are going to talk about today. The Green Industrial Revolution is something the government have committed to, they want to do, and hopefully with maybe a bit more funding, but what we're doing at the moment, we can support with that. This is a slide I sort of mentioned before, but we take all the way from raw materials to systems integration and recycling. We're interested in all of it. But the question is, how are we doing that? What is it we're actually doing? So, we have already spent quite a lot, or committed, not spent necessarily, but committed quite a lot of the £80 million that we pledged a few years ago. Some of it, the projects, the R&D projects, have actually closed down already, and there's some fantastic case studies of ones that are either in flight or ongoing, and our annual report is outside the last 5 or 6 pages of that. I mean, lots of it's bedtime reading, but some of it is actually really fascinating stuff about cutting-edge research and cutting-edge commercialization of that research. So we spent a fair bit of money on fairly traditional CR&D. We have also just closed recently our flagship £22 million CR&D competition, and we also have funded the centre, so we've got about a bit less than £30 million worth of kit in the UK at the moment. It's being commissioned, or it'll be online fairly shortly, and Matt and Rachel will talk about that a bit later this morning, so I won't say any more, but there's kit available for testing, for proving, etc. And the final thing to talk about is skills. So we have a fairly small scant funding for skills, but we're hopefully going to use that very sensibly, and I'll talk about a bit more about that in a few slides' time. So the annual report, I mentioned, it's just outside, so grab a copy. And this is to say that we're not just doing this in the southeast, which is, or the Golden Triangle, as it were, in the Midlands. This is all over the whole of the UK, which is, I think, nice to see. So partly this is just good because this is where the industry is, but partly this is a really good news story, and the government likes to tell about, scaling up and levelling up across the UK. So building the ecosystem. So one of the, I guess, the really important points around building the community is that we have we have had in the past quite a disparate PEMD community in the UK. So it's fantastic, lots of really interesting stuff happening, but not necessarily, and AESIN helps with this, but not necessarily linking up with each other, talking to each other, and so bringing that together, building this ecosystem is a way in which the UK can actually be very competitive globally in the PEMD supply chain. We might not end up manufacturing huge amounts of high volume, have the high volume manufacturing facilities, but our ecosystem allows for those high value, low volume potentially, and I think that's like one of our real, real positives within the UK. So how are we doing that? So we are, as I said, we've got some funding for skills and talent. We will be developing some kind of, this is all to come in the coming months and weeks, so do talk to me about it if you've got ideas. But I think we'll be developing a delivery mechanism, so a central hub that can then point people in the right direction, and then we'll be hopefully spending most of our funding on the actual education and training materials and the engagement and the outreach. So that's to come, and it's still a work in progress. I'm very open to discussions around that. Diversity and inclusion is something that we're trying to bake into everything we do, certainly with the skills and talent pipeline. So there's some really exciting projects coming up. We're scoring them at the moment, so I can't say too much. Really exciting things coming up around diversity and inclusion, around certainly the STEM activities that we'll be doing. And the community is growing, partly because there are new companies forming, new joint ventures, etc., new funding coming in from VCs and likewise, but also just because we're finding out about more of the community and bringing them into our community. So companies that maybe have worked by themselves or in fairly isolated silos are now coming in and realizing how large the PEMD community in the UK is and joining with that. So the Industrialization Centers, I really don't want to talk about this too much because Matt and Rachel will talk about it in an hour or so. But just to say, they're all over the UK. We have funded a bit less than £30 million worth of kit, but then there is, they know where the rest of the kit is. So there's millions, potentially, I don't know, many £1 million worth of kit around the country that they can point in the direction of and open doors for you if there's, and probably direct you in terms of what you might need even if you're unsure about that. So I think the final thing to say is collaboration enables success. So the collaborative CR&D projects, the successes that are coming out of that, the good news stories that are coming out of that are phenomenal. And the UK is well positioned for the global PEMD market. And I think the collaboration and the ecosystem we have is one of the main ways in which we can really do that. And we hopefully are building a resilient supply chain in the UK, and the net zero angle on that is incredibly important. As I said earlier, climate change scares me. The way that we try and reduce CO2 emissions is by stopping burning fossil fuels. The way we do that is to commercialize faster than we would otherwise the solutions that mean we no longer need to burn fossil fuels. And that's what everyone in this, or many people in this room today do. That's what you're doing. So hopefully the funding that we can provide and other mechanisms can help you commercialize those solutions sooner than you otherwise would. The UK has a key role in that, and I really want to speak to as many people today around that and understand how we can better support you going forward and how we can help you as it stands. So yeah, I'll end there and hand back over. Sorry, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but yeah, thanks very much.